It is good to equip us for every good work. It is capable for equipping us for every good work. Yeah, we ought to have a biblical worldview for all areas of life: law, science, economics, history, family, social issues, education, religion, how we deal with national security, active euthanasia, all of this. What this teaches us, again, folks, is the need to know the Bible and apply it to every area of life. That's what we've been doing now for 36 years. And thank you for your support, so we keep doing so. Take care.
Guys, I'm excited about this time that we're going to spend together. So what this is basically, the purpose of this is to have us more exposed to the questions that we have, especially as, you know, we have experts like Inez Cyrus and many others who want to or have experience in a certain area, and they know more than us and can provide us a different insight than what we're seeing on the media, especially as we know the media is very biased. So this book club, though, exists so that way we can have those questions answered and be informed enough that if we were to go before a city council meeting, and I'm not saying that any of us on this call, maybe we will run for offices or, you know, any public office, but if we were to just go before our school board meeting, that we are informed about the topic that we're talking about, and we're not just reacting. We're not, you know, we might be upset or whatever, but we're not like using our emotions to communicate. We are coming with hard evidence and fact because we have prepared ourselves to take on those specific conversations. And as I was thinking through this time that we have together, I am a Christian, and one of the scriptures that came to my mind, I was just thinking through what this could become and what it could lead to. The scripture Matthew 10:16 came to mind, and it says, this is Jesus speaking to his disciples. He said, "Look, I am sending you out as sheep among wolves. So be as shrewd as snakes and harmless as doves." And when you look up the word shrewd, it says it's someone with sharp and practical intelligence, keen insight, or cleverness, particularly in business or tricky situations. So when we're talking about the political arena, we need to come with hard evidence and facts, and that's how we are going. That paves the way for us, for people to hear us, and also for us to exercise our constitutional right and make sure we hold on to those foundational truths that we have in this nation. But in order for us to do that, we have to be prepared. And I love what Inez said on one of my podcasts. She said, "I'm sorry to tell you this to your audience, but your education system does very little to prepare you outside of these borders." And it's true. A lot of us don't really have the understanding of what's taking place outside of America. And so our framing and our arguments come from that. And it's very much erroneous and of course biased, and we don't have the understanding of what's taking place in the other side of the world. And then we start to, you know, the loudest voice like Tucker Carlson, etc., they come into play, and because they seem to know more than us, and they're making an argument that seems right, we capitulate to them, right? Because we don't know much. But if we do our due diligence outside of all of that, aside of what's provided to us from the government, and we take the time to learn, we're going to be set up for fighting for this nation in such a powerful way. And I think if there's any time for a conservative to run with the information that we have, or to understand what we're fighting for in this time in our nation, it is right now. Because you have Donald Trump, who I wouldn't say he's hard, you know, necessarily conservative, or he's Christian, etc. Even though he claims that, of course, there's some language and some stuff that are distasteful, but you can clearly see he's fighting for the Constitution, our constitutional rights, even though we can see that there's things that are against it. But under Biden, I have seen myself personally, Christians and some people of faith, and specifically in the Christian arena, being attacked for their faith and actually just exercising their constitutional right. Like Sharona is one of the ladies, Sharona Bishop, I know some people that, you know, were silenced because of certain things, COVID, all those things. So, but we don't necessarily see the same thing under Trump. So what I am saying is that if we're going to fight for what our Constitution has laid for us, we need to do that now. And we need to be prepared to do that. And to do that, we need to bring in experts in certain fields that can help us along the way. And so that is why this exists. So I have Inez Cyrus, and I'm very grateful for her taking her time to do this. So Inez, she is an Iranian expert. I know a lot of you on this call probably already know her. I'm familiar with her work. She has a book that she just released a few weeks ago titled The Architecture of Jihad. If you haven't gotten it yet, I encourage you to get it. Start to read it, start to go through it. It is very, very insightful. And I'll say this and then I will allow her to chime in. But what I found reading this book before I started doing the book, this meeting that we're doing right now, is I love that she comes from a place of not making you feel that if you were to be in a store, for example, Publix, and you came across somebody that had a hijab on, you're not fearful. It's not a book that gives you fear about that. What it does is it prepares you to fight for the values of this nation, so that and prepares you to see how the ideology, how that system tries to infiltrate a nation. So not necessarily to be afraid of an individual person, because that person might just be a peaceful person minding their own business, right? But to prepare you, to set you up to hold to the values of this nation that allows somebody that is running from a regime to have the safety net that they need. So that is what I feel this book leads us to do and gives us the language and understanding of that. So Inez, thank you so much for being on this call. If you would like to say anything before we get started.
Thank you for having me, and thanks to everybody who's here. What I want to add is, yes, you're correct, and that's the thing. You know, I have had some good friends who are in the industry. Actually, before we come to release the book, there was a huge question of the title might work against you. Many won't buy it because they don't. What is Architecture of Jihad? Like, who cares? And my response was, it has to be Architecture of Jihad. Because in the book, I mentioned this, and we can read that part at some point, but this book is not about people, Muslims, Christians. This book is not about people. This book is about a system that is flying under the radar, because the definition behind the word I specifically used for the title has been completely changed to undermine how dangerous it is. A lot of people hear the word jihad automatically, as we talked about on your show, September 11, things blowing up, jihadists are screaming Allahu Akbar. And it's like, that's terrifying enough. I'm like, yeah, but imagine if you knew that's just 1/10 of it. Imagine how terrifying that would be. And you're correct. I actually, every single book I have signed, I believe, including yours, I sign it with Psalm 23:4. Because I want to make sure that anyone who opens the book realizes this is not about fear. Actually, it's about the fact that we don't fear. We don't. We're told not to fear. But it's about understanding, tangibly comprehending the dangers of the system. Not to be afraid of it, to fight it, as you phrased it. So, yes, there are good people everywhere. There is no way a certain group of people of race, color, nationality, or religion can claim perfection. We can't. However, that group defines if you find more good or less good in that group. And unfortunately, when it comes to Islam, we find more danger than alliance with them. It's just fact. Sorry. Not
That's
sorry.
good. Okay, so how we're going to do this, and we got some comments in the comments. You guys are great. Aurora, I love the chiming in and putting in some key things in the comment section. And then Go Away just provided us some stuff about the city, your board meetings and city council meetings, the imposed time limits that you have. Thank you so much. That's great. Yes, add those in. If you see something we're missing, please put it in the chat, or you can hop in. So how we're going to do this, guys, is if you've read the book or you got questions along the way, even if you haven't necessarily had the opportunity to dive in it yet, that's okay. If you got questions along the way, especially into what we're taking place in our nation as of right now, You can either put that in the comment section if that is better for you, or you can raise your hand. There's like a little feature where you can raise your hand and then unmute yourself, and then you can come in and then ask us a question live. So that's what we want to do. So provide this time for you guys to be able to do that. And so if you got questions, I'm going to allow you guys to go ahead and either put it in the chat section or raise your hand, and then I'll call on you to come either up or answer it. Okay, I see a thumbs up, so we're good. We're good and good. Okay. Now, while you guys do that, I guess, Inez, I'm gonna go first. I'll give you guys time because I'm gonna start in our chapter 1. So I guess my first question here is the sources you cite, like I might butcher this, Sahih al-Bukhari.
Sahih al-Bukhari.
Okay, what? Say it again.
Sahih al-Bukhari.
Okay, Sahih al-Bukhari.
Perfect.
And thank you. And reliance of the traveler are real, but they come from different contexts and time periods. How do you determine that these represent the central and consistent teaching of Islam rather than one stream of interpretation?
Good question. I'm glad I actually have one of those two sources right here next to me. I couldn't have Sahih al-Bukhari next to me. I am not spending that money. It's over,
Yeah.
a few $1,000s to get the entire collection. I won't
Wow.
do that. But here's the book we have right here, The Reliance of the Traveler. See that? Just the cover itself says Reliance of the Traveler, a classic manual of Islamic sacred law. Reliance of the Traveler, it doesn't come from, 1400 years ago. The Reliance of the Traveler, which is a very thick book, as you can see. And I normally say, if you can't afford it, I suggest you buy a copy as a group and share it together. It is not available in full context online. You have to actually have the book, and you can see, I think, millions of little things for me to find things easily. Reliance of the Traveler is basically what you would call Sharia, the Islamic laws. The source that is used inside Reliance itself is the Quran and Sahih al-Bukhari, right? Those sources are used in here, and this book has expanded those sources of the Hadith. By the way, when we say Sahih al-Bukhari, we need to be more specific. It's the Hadith. Hadith means stories. The stories told by those who were around Muhammad during the time of Muhammad. They have told the stories that Muhammad did this. I saw Muhammad say this. I saw Muhammad do this. It has come into a collection. The most reliable and credited version of those is Sahih al-Bukhari. If you look up Islamic Hadith, there are so many different ones. Al-Bukhari is the person basically who gathered these and confirmed them with a friend of a friend who was there, who told the story, supposedly. So Al-Bukhari is the most reliable and used by both major Sunni and Shia sect of Islam. Wahhabis don't necessarily rely on Al-Bukhari, but there are other ones. There's Sahih Muslim, there's Abu Dawud, there's Al-Bukhari. They're different. Anyways, my source, I go to Al-Bukhari because it's the only one that muftis, leaders, including supreme leader of Iran, they go to that as a source as of today. Therefore, it is the most credited by their own leaders. Reliance of the Traveler has used Al-Bukhari and Quran to explain it, dumb it down, and make it a regulation of laws and orders for practicing Muslims. What makes a Reliance of the Traveler reliable or credible? For the 4 major Sunni Islamic schools in the world, where all the imams and the supreme leaders graduate from, teach Reliance of the Traveler at their school. So those are where these sources come from. Another part of it, for example, if you pull up Islamic Republic of Iran's penal code or civil code, same thing with Pakistan, Afghanistan, Kuwait, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, and one more I'm forgetting, Jordan. Their penal codes and civil codes have references to exact ruling of Reliance of the Traveler as 2026. So they're relying on this book to make penal codes, civil codes, some of the judgments inside courts come from this book.
Wow. Okay.
Did that answer?
Yes, perfect. I'm gonna ask one more question for me. I have a few, but I want to make sure I give time for. I have, like I said, some followers that sent me some stuff too.
Of course.
Let me ask this one more question though, and I'm gonna pull up this Reuters article. This is, I believe this is still, we're still in chapter. I think this is chapter 2. Well, this is where, or maybe this is still a chapter 1. You talked about decentralized cell, right? And I wanted to ask if this was an example of that. So there was a UK police that arrested a fourth suspect at court over an attack of the Jewish ambulance. So I'm going to read this one. This was um, this was on April 4th that this article was dropped by Reuters. So what happened, it says a British police arrested a fourth person in connection with an arson attack on Jewish community ambulances, with the detention happening at a Lebanon court with 3 males already charged in the case were appearing, prosecutor said on Saturday. And it names the people, the ages are between 17 and 20 years old. It's really wild. They're very young. So I wanted to ask you, I believe one of them is a Pakistani. Some of them are actually were born in the UK. Uh, and I remember you in the book, you talked about these. So separate from like the sleeper cells that I've heard about, I've never heard it framed this way that you do in the book, where you said that these are decentralized. So they basically get radicalized. And you talked about how they are radicalized with inside of the country. That's one of their ways of spreading it. And they do that through the social media platforms. You mentioned a few different things. I'm omitting some people right now. And so I'm trying to apply what I'm learning in the book from what I'm seeing on the headlines, right? So this is giving me context now because I can apply it. So would you say that this is an example? Do I need to read it a little bit more so you
Oh
understand what
no,
I'm saying? Or
I'm following that case actually, and you're
okay,
correct. 2 of the suspects were British born. One of them was
you're
of
awesome.
Pakistani background, of course.
I promise, guys,
So
this is not planned pre-head. She did not know I had these questions.
no, I did not, and I kind of like it that way better actually. I told him like, don't
I know
tell me
you
what
told
we're
me
going
that.
to. I show up, we just wing it. But yes, that's exactly how it is. Now, the way I phrase it in the book, for purpose of picking my words very carefully, as it's a habit of mine, I didn't say they're radicalized. I said they're activated.
Okay,
Because
I pay attention to that.
not just in the book, but when you think of Islam, to understand it better and to comprehend the actions taken by Muslims, you can look at it as radical versus moderate. Reason. I always tell people don't say Sharia law because you're being redundant. It's Sharia because Sharia, as we read on the cover of the book, it's Islamic law already. You don't need to say Islamic law. Same thing comes with a radical Islam. You're being redundant. Islam is radical by a standard of modern day civilization. Because when you study Islam, I'm not even talking about Sharia yet. Bear with me. When you're talking about Islam, what is Islam? Islam is Quran. Islam is Muhammad, the prophet of Islam. And that's about it. That's all there is to Islam. This is why when you convert and you say the Shahada, the only thing you testify to in Shahada in Arabic is there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his last messenger. That's all. Boom. That's Islam. Now, why is Islam radical by itself? Because believe it or not, 52% of this book, 52% of this book is explanation for a believer how to deal with a non-Muslim. And the only way to deal with a non-Muslim based on this book that I'm touching, that I shouldn't be, I don't want to get into jokes with your program, but I would. The ways to deal with non-Muslims: convert them. If they refuse, if they are of Christian or Jew or Zoroastrian, that's it. Anything outside of those 3, after convert, if not kill, done. But in those 3 group of people, if they don't convert, give them a status known as dhimmis, second-class citizens. They will face a special kind of tax called jizya, which is the Islamic protection tax. You pay the Islamic society to protect you from the execution that is ordered on your head by Quran. When you run out of money to pay that, and you will run out of money. Why? Because within your second-class citizen status, you cannot have a job inside government. You cannot have any owned property or businesses that belongs to you. Therefore, sooner or later, you're going to run out of money because you barely make enough money to even survive, let alone pay the extra tax. When you run out of that money, we go to option 3, kill. So 52% of this book tells its followers, known as Muslims, convert or kill non-Muslims. Would you consider this book radical by itself?
I would say so.
So Islam by itself is radical. There's no need to say radical Islam or moderate Islam. Now, when it comes to those practicing, I call them the activated Muslim and deactivated, because there are Muslims who will literally watch us right now and say, she's making this up. It's not there, because they never actually read the whole Quran at all. Right? So they're deactivated. They have not read the Quran. They have not studied Muhammad's life through Muhammad's Sirah, the biography. They have not read the Reliance of the Traveler. They never lived in an Islamic country. So they're deactivated. And then you have the activated, or also known as devout Muslims. Those who not only read the Quran, but they actually enjoy the rewards and the freedom given to them by Allah to act the way they do on earth. Now, that being said, yes, I have mentioned in the book in 2 different chapters, actually. One of the chapters is the betrayal jihad, and then the other one is the combat jihad, which is chapter 1 and chapter 10 of the book, that we have faced this challenge unnoticed by most parents, that we have many of our own kids here in Western countries, born to even non-Muslim families, who are being grabbed, trained, and activated to become actual jihadists for Allah. And the example you just gave, yes, that's a perfect example of it. And unfortunately, the number is way higher than you would expect. I released the Substack very recently. I believe the title of it was Islam's War on Our Boys, where I gave examples of American-born boys who were captured, or their attention was captured by jihadists. They were trained, they were activated, and one way or another, they got involved with this. We had the huge, remember the flood of Americans and Europeans flying to Syria to join ISIS, girl or boys? And most people didn't look into why they didn't. They should have, because we could have stopped it. We can still stop it today. But nobody looked into, wait, why? Everybody preferred to say, they probably grew up in a Democrat family. No, they didn't. Most of them grew up in a godless family. That's the root of the problem.
Ooh, that's good.
When Sunday dinners are canceled and Sunday morning church is just mom and dad, and iPads are replacing the nighttime stories, then your kid as a human will get to an age of looking for purpose. You didn't give them that purpose. Somebody's going to come and say, you want to know God? We call him Allah, and he has a plan for you. Here's your purpose. Go blow yourself up. You lose your kid to Allah because you failed to give him purpose that is written in the Bible. You don't even need to come up with the purpose. All you need to do is open the Bible and read it to your kid. I'll stop now. I think I'm over talking.
That's so good. Oh, I'm going to hit the comment section right now. Welcome in for the people that just came in. Go away and Aurora, you guys, thank you so much. Please keep this coming. Summing up some things that we've said. Go away talked about that hardcover of the book. I believe it's the Traveler's one, right? It's $165 on Amazon.
Yes.
He said the UK and the United Kingdom these days, the government will not address Islamic rape gangs, devastating small villages all over the UK. I've heard that too. I think Charlie Kirk even talked about that a lot as well. And yeah, he said convert or die. He said basically the mafia protection shakedown racket.
Yes, exactly. That's how it is. They will phrase it like if you ask a Muslim, what is a jizya? And a deactivated Muslim will tell you, I have no idea what is that, because they don't know what it is. An activated Muslim will tell you that, oh, it's just the Islamic tax. But then when you read, I have that in my book, Financial Jihad chapter has the jizya explained. When you read it, you understand that it is absolutely explained as mafia protection. If you want to stay alive within a society of Muslims, you will pay protection money to the Islamic leader of that society. Otherwise, you won't stay alive. And by the way, if anybody thinks these are, as you said, fairly older stories and rules and regulations, I would invite you to look into some of the stories coming out of Middle East, including Islamic Republic of Iran, where there is a protected group of Christians that are originally, historically, traditionally of the migrants of Armenia, the Armen, we call them Armen Persians in Iran, who are allowed to practice their Christianity. But their churches are permitted in only certain areas. Their churches are only allowed to open from this time to that time on a Sunday. If they stay even a minute over, they will shut down the church for standing over. They are not allowed to allow a non-Christian of their group inside the church. Otherwise, the pastor will be facing charges, trial, and possibly execution for promoting Christianity to a Muslim inside Iran. And also, their businesses and their churches are double taxed by the government of Iran. So this isn't something Muhammad just did, or at some point Ottoman Empire did. No, it's being practiced today. Let me plug more of my stuff. I know you don't mind, but yesterday I released a Substack for my paid subscribers. We headed over the map and I talked about only, this is ridiculous to say, only 22 countries where it is extremely dangerous and impossible to be a Christian. Only 22 of them. When you would think that there should be 0 of them, right?
Yeah.
No, I got the chance to talk about 22 of them. And in that, I, for example, do talk about Iran. I'll talk about Saudi Arabia, one of our great allies. I'll talk about Qatar. And I break it down on how Christians are facing the dhimmi status written by Muhammad and practiced by him today in so many of those countries. It's being practiced every day. And funny enough, it's being practiced inside America today. You just don't know it.
Agoway mentioned this. He said, there's footage available in New York City. Thanks, Mandani. Of Muslims shaking down neighborhood markets, dictating what they can and cannot sell on their shelves.
Yes.
And then it says, where does America rank in that list? Dangerous countries to be a Christian in.
I would say, so what do we have? We have 100 technically acknowledged 172 countries across the world. I would say, believe it or not, we are still the safest, top 5 safest in the world for Christians.
Sure.
Be specific. By regulations and law and order of the country. I need to be specific.
Yeah.
The 22 countries I mentioned in that Substack focuses on government, leaders, law and order, constitution, penal codes. That makes it dangerous. Otherwise, there is no, be a true Christian, there's no safety for anyone in any country anymore. Because technically, first of all, Muslims have infiltrated every nation. There is no country left that there's no infiltration, except, I mean, we could talk about North Korea, but then nobody else exists there either. There's a camp for Muslims, for Christians, for Jews. I actually have North Korea on that 22 countries names.
Oh, yeah.
Because being a Christian in North Korea means the same as being a Christian in Iran or Syria or Pakistan or Saudi Arabia, for that matter. I want to emphasize on Saudi Arabia. You all think Saudi Arabia is this modern, moderate, reformed Islamic nation. Go in there. Go in there and try to leave 6 months. 6 months. Try to be an American Christian inside Saudi Arabia for 6 months. Best of luck to you.
I'm gonna get to some questions I have. And guys, for you that just tuned in, I saw a lot of people come in while we were chatting. Welcome in first. If you got any questions along the book or along the lines of what's taking place that you would like to get Inez's insight on, just raise your hand. There should be like a little feature where you can raise your hand. If you don't know how to do that, I don't know if you guys can see when I raise my hand, a little pop-up happens. But if you don't know how to do that, please feel free to put your comment in the chat. Or if you would like to say your comment, you can also just let me know. You can put in the chat, I have a question, and you can definitely unmute your mic, and then you can ask that question live, okay? That's why we wanted to do this Zoom. So it's a little bit more personal, and you can actually have the access, especially for the subscribers.
Can I just quickly, first of all, hi to everybody. And of course, I can't see that name and not say a big hug and hello to Hearst family. Hi, Paul. I don't know if anybody else is there with you, but hey, Hearst family, they're amazing. But then if I could also request, some of you have your microphones unmuted. So what's happening is we're hearing a bit of an echo of our own voices. Especially if you're listening on your speakers. So if you don't mind muting yourself until it's your turn to come on, that would definitely help. Hi, Paul. I see you.
Yeah, I can mute you guys, but I would love for you to do that yourself if you can. I'll give you guys the opportunity, and then I'll come in and mute. Thank you, Inez.
Of course. Once a producer, always a producer, right? My head is like, okay, we're going to fix the audio, and my lighting is terrible. But go ahead. Sorry, didn't mean to.
So, all right, I got a question. I'm going to go in and mute. I got a question from Johnny Lang. He said, I know a couple of Iranians that appreciate the USA for ridding the country of the terrorist parliament. But what is the percentage of people in Iran that support the USA?
Do you mind reading me the first part of that the statement?
I know a couple of Iranians that appreciate the USA for ridding the country of the terrorist parliament. But what is the percentage of people in Iran that support the USA?
Okay. I need to take a few minutes on this. One, I appreciate the gesture, but let's keep this factual. U.S. did not rid Iran of the Islamic terrorist parliament. Unless I missed it, Ghalibaf is still the Speaker of the Parliament. Per U.S. request, Ghalibaf's name was removed from Israel's hit list temporarily. U.S. requested Israel to keep him alive for now. So if we're referring to the Supreme Leader and his family and some of the IRGC, heads of IRGC and the judicial system, yes. But that was Israel, and we were grateful for it. The second part of the statement. Which part? Because you gotta always differentiate. I will say inside Iran, Iranians inside Iran, a good 70% of them love America, the country. Love America, the country. Like the concept of America, they love it. Probably as we speak right now, about 30% inside Iran are still liking President Trump. The rest have either lost hope, respect, or vision on him. And you can confirm these by going to my pages, Substack, X, or Facebook. I've been literally translating personal messages I'm receiving on my phone from inside Iran. I'm translating their own sentences and posting it on where they're at, what they're thinking, or how they're feeling. As far as people of America, I'm going to go and say good 85% of Iranian people love American people. Easily.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, Jay in the comment section, and go away, hit it. He hit it. He's with you, man. He is tight with you. I hope it's a guy. I think it's a guy. The name go away. IRGC is still in control. Jay said, please discuss uh,
Hijra.
Hijra, jihad, invasion disguised as immigration of immigrants and asylum of refugees, multiple Muslim wives and kids per Muslim man, all on welfare to overwhelm, sabotage, undermine, and overthrow, which equals guaranteed Islamic takeover with either ballots or bullets. Goes hand in glove with Marxist. This is good. This is a really good question. Marxist, Cloward, Piven equals, I hope I'm saying this right, red or green access. Thanks. Jay, what a great question. Inez?
I'm going to actually go to the book. Chapter 3, Migration Jihad. I'm not going to go into the whole chapter because it's going to take too much, but I'm going to read you the definition part of the chapter. So for your audience who have not read the book or have not gotten the book, every chapter starts with the name of the chapter, of course, chapter number, name of the chapter. And I tried my best to keep all the names English, like Migration Jihad, though it should be called Hijra. Right, DJ, good job. And then we go over the definition of that jihad. Then we go into the actual text, Quran, Tafsir, Sirah, Reliance of the Traveler, to show you the source of where this jihad been allowed or encouraged or, permitted. Then we go to life of Muhammad and how Muhammad practiced this specific jihad. From there, we hit quickly at a historical expansion. Most of them are, the Ottoman Empire, the Persian Empire, the Indian Empire,
Good
very
stuff.
briefly. Then we go to modern day practice of this specific jihad. After that, we go to practical countermeasures, where I give you quick bullet points of what you can do today, right here at home, to push back, slow down, or in some cases, stop the growth of this jihad. And then I conclude with a quick core lessons of that chapter. So with migration jihad, we start with migration is not simply the story of refugees seeking safety or families chasing opportunity. In Islamic doctrine, hijra, migration jihad, is a calibrated strategy, a deliberate shifting of populations to create new centers of influence, reshape societies from within, and slowly tilt political power toward Islamic governance. It is one of the oldest and most effective tools embedded into the architecture of Islamic expansion. From the moment Muhammad walked into Medina, migration transformed from a personal act of survival into a global template for civilizational from a personal act. I'm sorry, I repeated that. For civilizational change. Demographic movement became a force multiplier, one capable of altering borders, cultures, and civilization without firing a single shot. So everything Jay said is correct. Now we go expanding on that, but a lot of time, Iesha, we hear a lot of people saying Democrats love illegals because they want their vote.
Yeah.
And that is very accurate. But then came this very brilliant system that already practiced overriding population through migration. A huge part of the historical fact of this Persian Empire, huge part of conquering Persian Empire by Islam was migration. Huge. It was barely a convert. If you read the history of how Persian Empire was converted or captured and conquered, it was very few who converted to Islam. It was the battle, the bloodshed, and then it was the migration, overriding, asking for small things. That's how I do it in the book too. From that time to today, when you look at it, they come in They are grateful. They come from disaster. They come from war zone. They come from a starvation. They come from oppression. And when they settle in, I don't mean when they get their green card or learn their English. No, I mean they're settled in with their paperwork, not even proper legal, just a card to be able to now run around. Then immediately they don't like the brand of bottled water they're being received. They don't like their cell phone. They want a fancier one. There isn't enough money. They start asking for more. This group of smart people were like, wait a minute. We have few countries in the Western side, which they call it the Western evil, that are desperate for those who will vote for them regardless of their policy. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to make a deal with them. We vote for them to let us in, legally, illegally, with benefit, without benefit, whatever, just let us in. And then when time is right, as said in the Quran, ordered by Allah, do not call for peace when you are superior in numbers. When we grow enough in numbers, let's say in London, then we replace every single one of them with our own guys like Mayor Khan and 44 other cities inside UK that now have Muslim mayors. So the red-green axis, yes, it's there. But the green has always won the game over red. The Muslim population has replaced even the red of communist, socialist, Marxist, or Democrat. They're all the same thing.
That's good. And what do you make of this comment from Go? He says Texans deny that they have been conquered by Islam. So we have the governor, I believe, fighting back with the wasn't it Epic City? I believe was the name that.
Epic City, yes. Texans, well, the thing is, go away. It's not just Texans. Majority of, if we want to stay inside America, let's just stay inside America. By the way, I should note this to you, Iesha, and everyone who's here with us. The reason I keep I'm not trying to take it off America, as I titled the book or subtitled the book, it's the global strategy. Jihad is a global strategy. So when I address it, I try to expand it around the globe. Because if I focus in one zone, the other zones are missing, which is most people did. But for this answer, I'll stay in America. Majority of Americans are denying that we have been conquered. It's not just Texans. You cannot possibly think that America has not been invaded when you have more than 300 active Sharia obeying representation across the country from local, state to federal, and we haven't even made it to the midterm yet. Yes, Texans deny it, so do the rest of the country. Tennessee is still trying to say, oh, Texas is conquered. What do you think Tennessee is? Have you been to Nashville, Tennessee? Have you been to the giant mosque inside Nashville, Tennessee? Everybody's now hearing about what's happening in Little Rock, Arkansas. I've been covering it for a few years. They're everywhere.
What's happening in Little Rock? I'm sorry. I know a small church there that's just started.
No, so the Islamic Center of Little Rock in Arkansas, somebody dug old permits saying, oh, look, so that Islamic Center started as a church, forgive me, Lord, as a mosque, a small mosque in 1996. And then gradually they started expanding into what is now the Islamic Center of Little Rock. They have a mosque, they have a school, they have their Islamic Center, they have a bigger parking. Anyways, later on, they wanted to expand even more in 2020 or 2021, don't quote me, one of those years. They got a permit to expand even further. to where they would get to expand their school size, also to build their own community with housing, where it's actually fits into Sharia housing system. Now somebody got their hands on that permit. They're saying, oh, it's like, again, for me, old news. I already knew about it. I've been tracking it. I've been writing about it. But the person who got it recently is a much bigger name on social media, so it's getting more attraction. Bottom line is, in Little Rock, heart of what you would think, a lot of people from there are telling me that this is as Christian as it gets. Now you have a very big Islamic center. They have the school. If you go to their website, you'll see the videos of their school, little 7-8-year-old girls with full hijab at a school. And they will tell you that we are trying to build a better future with vision of Islam. It's stated on their website. So they're everywhere. Everywhere. The reason there's a denial is, number one, human nature, right? Deny the problem, it will resolve itself. It's a myth, but that's human nature. You have a headache, you think if you ignore it, it's just going to go away. It won't, but you keep ignoring it, denying it. The second reason of denying is, especially today, if we acknowledge what is happening or what has happened already, and it's expanding and it's getting out of control, then possibly, maybe we will have to stand there and say, oops, wait, did it have anything to do with all the administration, all of them, not just one, but all of them? Then the creation of this great division in America, that narrative might just collapse, because people might come to realize that no matter who was in the office, the Islamization continued happening. Though we love to talk about red-green axis. And by the way, just for you to know, and your audience here, I started talking about red-green axis a decade ago, but I started talking about what a lot of Americans are so not familiar with, which is not a red-green axis anymore. We call it black-green axis. Okay. Which is what we're facing in America. I can expand it, but that's for a book of its own. The black-green axis is when all evil, now you got all the black. It's not just a red of Marxist communists, but it's all black, all evil, cooperating with Islam for the fact and reason that the more evil, the more Islam will welcome cooperation with. That's where we want to call them rhinos. Let's go with that. There's so many rhinos who are actively supporting Islamization, who are actively covering up for it, who are actively turning against Israel. You really think majority of this anti-Semitism you see on the right is just naturally anti-Semitism? No, they're allowing the influence of Islamism over them. They're buying into the narrative of poor Muslims, evil Jews, carrying over for them. So that's what we're facing. I know you only asked about Texas, but I wanted to. Everybody's denying it everywhere in America. Everybody is. I recently had a event in Chicago, book signing, and I think the room, 80% of people in the room were shocked when I told them how much Chicago has been conquered by Islam. They didn't know, and that's the denial. But it's everywhere. Wherever you are, they're there. They're there.
Can you also say that one of the other reasons why people are facing this denial is because it hasn't gotten to a level where we are necessarily, where it's attacking. I get like it's probably in a place where we can't see it, but when you look at the government, when you look at our, the fact that we have these laws, for example, that no person that's not born an American citizen can become a president, or when you look at the governor of Texas, that person is still an American trying to hold on to the values of our Constitution and, the laws of our land. It hasn't reached that level. I think could that also be a reason why people are also saying it has not conquered, because that's not our leadership. That's not who we're looking to for our running our state.
Yes, that could very well be the reason. And that's yet another reason I publish this book, because you might have a even Christian American mayor, governor, lieutenant governor, whatever, chief of police. But at this moment, there is not a single major zip code in America that is not actively involved with halal certification, which means most likely your area, through your tax dollar, is funding halal formation in America, that the money that's made off of selling halal whatever, it doesn't have to be just the meat, the halal whatever they're selling, is turning around, and portion of it is becoming funding for the terrorism and the bombing and the shooting you see across America. So, and again, that's why deception plays a role. Most people, and that's wonderful. Again, I love our music and food being Persian, but most Americans don't bother to walk into their small corner store, the Middle Eastern of Indian, Pakistani, I don't know, Iraqi, Lebanese, whatever, the restaurant or the small grocery store. People don't walk in there and look at the window or behind the register to see if they have a halal certificate or not, do they? No, because either they don't even know about halal certification, two,
Right.
they don't want to be Islamophobe, they don't want to be racist, so they just support the local business. Oh, well, you're funding your own demise.
Wow. And you see this question or from Jay. Let me make sure I haven't missed anything. Hold on. So I'm gonna start with Go Away's statement. He said, "That's why the timing of your book is so important. Hope we have enough time to get the word out. But MSM and professional sports continue to distract Americans from the truth of the threatening march by Islam upon this nation." Jay, I just want to, or Go Away, I want to comment on that just a little bit, and then we'll get into Jay's question too. Guys, if you were just hopping in and you got questions, I welcome you to put them into the chat, or you can do the feature where you raise your hand, and then you can unmute your mic and you can actually state it live while we're here together. But I was thinking about, um, let me read this again because I lost my train of thought. Hope we have enough time to get the word out, but MSM and professional sports continue to distract Americans. So I was thinking, and I believe God has a perfect timing, and I know that He knows what He's doing with this nation overall. When I think about the fact of when I came into politics, for you guys that don't know me, my name is Iesha, and I started my platform on social media as a beauty and fashion creator. That is my main thing. That's how I make income. But I felt the Lord call me into politics last year, and then I just saw the wave of doors open as I stepped into that arena. And I do believe that where God leads, He feeds, where He guides, He provides. This is a saying in our church. So usually, when you start a platform, it can kind of take some time. There's a small percentage of people where it takes off, but mine, I think God has definitely blessed me in that area, and I am not an expert by any means, which is why we have people like Inez to help us out. But I was wondering, I thought about this right before we got on our Zoom today. I was like, I wish because I could feel like God was tapping me to start early. And there's so many areas in my life where I could see God's like, get into this. I'm like, no, I don't do politics. But anyways, um, even my pastor saw it. But I thought today, if I had stepped into this earlier, maybe we could start this like conversation that we're having tonight earlier, and Donald Trump became president, how much more wind we would have if we had started early. But I'm like, God, even with the only person who can redeem time is Jesus. And so if there's any lack in that, I don't have to walk hopeless, because I know the man who created time, and who has the ability to accelerate it, to accelerate anything for His purpose, or have it at a certain designated time for His purpose and for His people. But anyways, I thought like we should have just did this earlier. We should have been running. But we're running now, and I think that like Inez's book coming out when time it did is perfect. Like you said, go away. Us hopping in now and learning. This is a time for us to learn, to be equipped. Ask those questions and then feel confident enough to take your position in this nation. And what we do is, our Constitution allows us to have that free speech where we can speak out about things. We can do that at the state, federal level. But if we're prepared, this is how we garner the air, right? Not just going crazy and shooting people and stuff like that, like we've seen, unfortunately. But we have to hold to those constitutional values too. That like we have this free speech. We don't have to go in. We can hear the other side, but if we come informed enough, we can tear down the argument, and that's what the Word of God tells us to do too. Let me get to Jay's question. He said, have noticed you and Shahram. I hope I said that right. I don't know. I feel like I might have.
Sharon, you're good.
Sharam, okay. Referring to yourselves as Iranian looking from the outside in. Whenever I hear you guys self-identify as or are referred to by others as Iranian, I keep wondering why aren't or wouldn't you guys refer to yourselves as Persians? To outsiders, Iran would seem to be a deep state intel agency construct, like a regime, while the patriotic people, Persians, is there a specific reason why? It seems that not differentiating between Islamic Iranian regime versus patriotic Persian people only serves to confuse outsiders who aren't in the know. I didn't even know that that was a thing. So
Yes, it is a thing. It's a very much a thing. And
I got
Jay,
your role.
I'm not going to answer on behalf of Sharon. That's his to answer. But mine is, if you listen carefully or read carefully, I say Iranian when I say Iranian American, as an Iranian American, reason. Again, I'm very careful with what I pick as words. Our nationality is Iranian. It's not our race, it is our nationality. It's Iranian. Our race is Persian, because the nation of Persia doesn't exist, therefore the nationality of Persians doesn't exist. The race still does. In my case personally, even if I say a Persian by race, I have to be more specifically because I'm half Persian. But we don't have to dig that deep. My reason when I say as an Iranian American, because I'm referring to my birth nationality versus my citizenship nationality, Iranian American. If I say Persian American, it would be very wrong. Though nobody would have spotted probably except me, but I don't like to do that. I do refer myself as Persian when it comes to talk about race, culture, and heritage, because that is Persian. Though the nation of Persia doesn't exist, I don't refer to myself as Persian when it comes to nationality. I hope that answered my reasoning behind why I refer to me as this versus that, because I use both. Depending on what I'm introducing or what I'm referring to, I could say Iranian, I could say Persian. Normally I say I love our food. I just did. I love our food, our music being Persian food. That's heritage, or it's still the same food of Persia as it was during Persia. I hope that helped.
And then Aurora, Jay, you can let us know if you got any follow-up. Aurora said, IRGC has a very dangerous mentality. Iranians are most in danger in their own country. Speaking of migration, many Muslims are fleeing to the West to save their lives. Please comment, Annie. And she said, thank you.
Can you read that one more time for me? The
Mhm.
IRGC
Has a very dangerous mentality. Iranians are most in danger in their own country. Speaking of migration, many Muslims are fleeing to the West to save their lives. Can you speak to that?
Yes. Okay. So let me allow me, Aurora, thank you for the question, but allow me to break your question into two questions. IRGC, which is Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, because a lot of people get that confused. The I is not Iranian Revolutionary, it's Islamic, and that's important. IRGC, definitely very dangerous. Many Iranian, well, let's put it simply, over 80,000 people, Iranian people, were killed in the month of January this year in hands of IRGC by orders of Supreme Leader. That's how much danger they face. That's the first part. I will speak to the first part of your broken into two question. Yes, IRGC is dangerous. That is exactly why there won't be an end to Islamic proxy jihadist movement inside the region of Middle East and Central Asia as long as IRGC is in power. I'm not saying they need to be completely destroyed, but they need to be minimized into no power held. That's why they call themselves the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. They protect all Islamic revolutions, not just the Iran one. Any Islamic revolution, they are there to protect it. That's why they have their proxies. They train, they fund, and they arm Hezbollah, Hamas, Houthis, and the rest of them. And now I'm going to come to the second part of your question. Many Muslims, migrate, for better life, I think is the term you said, if I recall. Yes, they do. But there are two problems when we say Muslims, because we're generalizing a group now. Maybe 90% of those Muslims, 90% of those Muslims are deactivated. They are deactivated. And they do come here to have a better life. And they probably won't mind you. They might even go to a bar and have a beer with you. I don't know. They might even, as a girl, they might even go have a boyfriend. But then there's the 10% that are activated. And telling them apart, by the way, is just super easy, at least for me. It probably become much easier for you after you read the book too. The 10% who are active Muslims or activated Muslims are the ones that we need to be concerned with. The reason I say that, those 10% will have enough conversion inside our country to grow as fast as they would need with the 100%. And again, it comes down to a choice. I respect everyone and their beliefs. I have friends who are atheists, Christian, Jew, Baha'is, Zoroastrian, agnostic. I have them. The only type of friends I don't have are Muslims. Not because of my bad experiences, no, not at all. But because it comes down to, if you come to me and say, I'm a Muslim, there are two possible ways. You're a Muslim who are going to come to me, and if I throw 5 verses of Quran at you, you'll be like, wait, they are in the Quran? Which tells me that you are a self-proclaimed Muslim mentioned in the Quran as a bad Muslim who's not going to heaven because you're not Allah's favorite. Or you're going to debate me and start protecting your belief in Muhammad and Allah. Either way. First case, I can't be friends with you because you lack discernment. You lack judgment. You're following blindly a thing you call faith and religion. You're bending up and down 5 times a day to a specific direction that you have no historical concept of. Therefore, I will not allow your lack of discernment and your lack of care for what you praise influence my life or, God forbid, infect my life. If you're the one who's defending it, then, well, that case is clear, because if you're defending the verses I'm giving you, you will gladly behead me as an ex-Muslim and collect your reward, earthly or per Muhammad's promise in heaven. Comes down to, do you really know how to separate these? I do. But to me, it doesn't matter which group. Do you think the 90% who are coming for better life will also abandon Sharia when it comes to it and uphold our Constitution? If the answer is yes, absolutely. They're more than welcome to stay, be one of us. Let's uphold our Constitution and enjoy our lives. But I can tell you historically, 70% of that 90% are still not going to abandon Sharia. Not because they're in love with it. No. Because they're too afraid to leave it. Sometimes people, like I have had the honor to be called a hero by Dr. Bill Warner simply for the fact that I had the courage to leave Islam. Yes, it takes a lot of courage to stand and say, I'm an ex-Muslim. The horrifying pictures they push into your head from childhood of if you ever leave Islam, what's to happen to you, not just here, but after they kill you, that on its own takes a lot of courage. So, based on the backlash you receive from your own family members, honor killings that you're familiar with, I don't know how many of that 90% deactivated Muslims are going to stay deactivated or they're going to be activated to stay alive. We're talking survival.
Wow.
I hope that answered the question.
Let me give you another one. I thought this one was really good. This is from MJ Dick. He said, "Can you forgive the USA for the damage we have had to do and may need to continue to erase the problems your government has been committing for almost 50 years? If Trump is the man of his word, as he says, and has proven to us, will you accept help in rebuilding a new peaceful government?" It's like a two-part question.
Are you asking me personally, or are you asking me as possibly talking on behalf of Iranian people?
Can you give both?
Sure. I'm no one to forgive. Forgiveness belongs to Lord and Lord only. So that's the short answer. But I will say that a lot of the damage is done, didn't need to happen. It didn't need to be done, but it has happened. Iranian people inside Iran as of today are not so forgiving. They're extremely discouraged and they feel let down by President Trump. Many are coming to believe that some of the analysis were correct, and this was not about liberating Iranian people or even helping Iranian people, but rather it was more of positioning America in a better position in the Middle East. That's their answer. Second part, was the question about US helping rebuilding a new government?
If Trump is I'll start from that second sentence. If Trump is a man of his word, as he says, and has proven to us, will you accept help in rebuilding a new peaceful government?
With all due respect, we wouldn't need help to rebuild a new peaceful government. The candidate chosen by majority of Iranians inside outside Iran is Crown Prince Pahlavi. He already has his plan of rebuilding not just Iran, but the region. And he has his team ready to go. And many Iranians, including myself, have offered our services temporary, transitional to help rebuild the country. So, but the personal answer, absolutely not. I personally will never accept help from any American administration or government to rebuild any government. If we knew how to build a proper, peaceful government, we would have made it one for ourselves right here in America first. Iranian people, they probably would have the same answer unless President Trump just shakes hands with Crown Prince Pahlavi and say, good job, go get it done. Otherwise, no help will be accepted. Because as I said, their choice has been made by Iranians, and that's Crown Prince Pahlavi. Anybody else, it's going to be rejected by the people inside the country. Forget about the rest of us out here.
It's good. And I'm going to go to this one because I think my thought after you answered that kind of ties into what this last question I'll give you from them. They said, should Obama and Biden be arrested for contributing to the oppression of the people in Iran?
No, no, they shouldn't. Logically. First of all, by definition of international law, they have not committed a crime. By definition of Declaration of Human Rights, they have not committed a crime. Personally, would I like to see them punished? I'll let the Lord deal with them. But no, they haven't. They haven't committed a crime, though we see it that way. But by legal definition, they have not committed a crime, unfortunately. We can't punish them. We can hold them accountable. We can learn lessons from their actions and policies, but we can't put them in prison or punish them for that matter.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's good. And I wonder if this, now going back to MJ Dick, this is my own personal question. I wonder if his question is coming from the fact that when you look at Libya, for example, when Obama went in and then it was this total change of their government, and then he went in, kind of broke everything down, left, and then the people were left worse than when he came in. And then you see these, I don't know if you want to call them proxies. I don't necessarily know, but there was infighting within that nation where tribes, thank you, where they were fighting for leadership of that nation, and then you had a tribe that took over. Then it just uh again, not for the benefit of the people, for their own benefit. And you saw a lot of starvation with the people of that nation. You saw just a lot of destruction after that. And I remember Obama saying that one of his regrets during his presidency was Libya, was that he didn't set up or I guess stayed long enough to put in somebody in power that could help restore that nation. What are your thoughts? I guess if we were coming from that angle where, because let me add this too. So you have, if we look at the America First crowd, you have it's kind of split on this issue of forever wars. You have a portion of the people that are like, get in there, do the job, yes, accomplish the mission, but get out after that. Just get out and, destroy the regime and get out, leave them to figure out their own leadership, etc. And then there's that fear that the Libya thing could happen, where you have these people that are maybe even worse than the regime or have the same mentality as the regime, are waiting for their moment to take over. And then there's another America First crowd who are saying, yeah, accomplish the mission, do that. But let's make sure we don't leave the Iranian people worse than when we came in. And also let's make sure we don't have to come in years after you're not president again. Without having a forever war and without making Iran Ohio.
Right. This is where I'm going to talk Persian for a minute. Okay. So stay with me. First, let me acknowledge that I understand where everyone in all those categories come from. Completely understand. But let me help everyone understand it in a different angle, at least. Libya, Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria. You just talked about Libya, but these are all the same story, right? We went in, country blew up, we handed it back to Taliban, a tribe, or we let Iraq become a zoo, if not a jungle, Libya. Every single one of these countries, there are three major points that you need to remember about. One, we're going to do Iran versus the rest, Libya, Syria, Iraq, even Nigeria. How about that? Like even outside of that continent, we do the others. We're going to call them others versus Iran. Out of all the list of others, none of them existed on the map by race, history, or culture. They were all countries that were drawn on the map by a pen used by either US, UK, or France. Iran has been there for more than 3,000 years. Why does that matter? Let's say us here in America. We're coming up here in 250 years, right? Mm-hmm. Shortly. And we stand on a foundation that was built or put together by our founding fathers. Some argue Judeo-Christian, some argue, capitalism, everybody argues. But there was a foundation put together standing very unique against the history of human society. Yeah. So we have that foundation that is very hard to crack, let alone collapse. The same thing applies to Iran. Reason. If you open the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, and if you're really good with history, you can see how much of what you read there comes from a piece known as a Cyrus cylinder, a clay cylinder kept in London Museum today, known as Cyrus cylinder, written in a Western language, which is the original language of Persia. Cyrus cylinder because Cyrus the Great wrote it, who was the king of Persia, for my fellow Christians mentioned in the Bible. And that cylinder is known to modern day society as the first declaration of human rights, including the fact that Cyrus the Great and his cylinder also influenced Thomas Jefferson. Now, I want you to tell me, how much trust do you have on the foundation of our Constitution and Bill of Rights? Multiply that to the culture of the Persian people inside Iran. Turning them into Iraq, Libya, or Syria is mission impossible. There is too much foundation of understanding culture, civilization. I was pretty mad by the word choice of a civilization will die tonight. I was like, you realize you're talking about over 3,000 years of civilization, sir. That has survived Alexander. That has survived the Mongolian. Has survived too much to be dying tonight. That being said, that's the concern of the people inside. Now let's go into abilities. The others don't have much to stand on their feet when it comes to their economy, correct? We go to Iran, the country. As I've reported many times on my different Substacks and videos, Iran has so much natural resources that, based on the 100-day plan of Crown Prince Pahlavi, which, by the way, if you're interested on knowing his plan, because it's not just a bunch of bullet points, it's a full plan. You can find it on the Phoenix Project of Iran. Just look up the Phoenix Project of Iran. The 100 days, I mean, from economy to international law to national law to power plants, all of that is in there. And he didn't sit there write it himself. He literally had a team of researchers, from scientists to doctors to economists to philosophers, sit there, fight each other, and put this plan together. Now, we have so much natural resources. I'll give you some examples in a minute. But in his 100-day plan, you notice that if that system translates itself into a 5-year plan, within 5 years, not only Iran's economy will bounce to being top 3 in the region, but it will also influence to where just United States of America will benefit up to $3 trillion a year from Iran economy. Natural resources. Well, we know about their oil. We know about their gas.
Yeah.
There are the minerals. And then you have the gold and silver. Then on top of that, you have the copper. But then we top it with other extremely unique situations. Iran is the leading export of saffron in the world. There's some countries in Europe call the Iranian saffron the red gold. Iran also is the leading export of rice, tea, and rugs that you call Persian rugs. We also have opium that is second to Afghanistan, the leading. And then we have the pistachio. You pile that up, financially, the new government in Iran is not going to have to ask for handout from anybody to rebuild the country. Because when you have a proper government, even transitional under, let's say, Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi and his team, he has announced that immediately he's going to recognize Israel as a state. Boom, relationship, no more fighting between Iran and Israel. Immediately, the Islamic Republic of Iran's proxies are going to die because the new government not going to fund them. Well, they're going to fight them. And then immediately, with that, the new government is going to start doing trades and business internationally with other countries. And we have areas that is not even like untapped resources. So we don't need, we're not going to become a Libya or Iraq or Afghanistan for that matter based on collapse of economy or needing everybody else's humanitarian aid. And then here's where I will ace it. If you look up Iranian Americans involved in, you name a department or an organization or an industry, we're there.
Tech.
We're there. Google, Amazon, Apple. If the founder wasn't an Iranian, which in Google case was, one of the board of directors is. We have Iranian Americans in NASA, every university. Iranian surgeons, 2 Iranian surgeons have been listed on top 10 best surgeons in America 3 years in a row. Now, you tell me when, as I said, I have personally registered as a volunteer for temporary help with the rebuild of Iran. I am the tiniest, the little tiniest fish in that tank. Imagine when all of these Iranian Americans, Iranian British, Iranian French, we're everywhere. We are exiled. We're spread, scattered around the world. Not again, confirm everything I'm saying. You can. All of these expertise are going to gather in the country to help rebuild it. What do you think is going to happen? It's going to collapse and become Libya? Or is it going to go back to its great days before 79 when Iran was the strongest ally? We were stronger allies to America than Israel through export and business and trade and tourism. Did you know before 1979, Iranians did not need a visa to come to America and Americans didn't need a visa to go to Iran?
Yeah.
Those would be my reasons that I understand everyone's concern, but you need to separate IRGC and the mullahs from the culture, heritage, and history of this land. That's when the differentiation, nothing against people of Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Libya, nothing. It's just historically they didn't exist. We did.
It's good. And I imagine if we get to a place where, the crown prince is installed, that there would be such a great relationship where the US would be involved in, of course, trade and all that, but that would help with the infrastructure as well and the rebuilding.
Yes, I know you didn't mean it that way, but we got to be careful with our words. We are not hoping for Crown Prince Pahlavi to be installed. We are hoping for him to be the transitional government, and then we will most likely vote for him to become the next government at the ballot when the 100 days is over.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Well, Aurora said, until when tonight will the Zoom session go? It is 8:30. I know we had some people to hop in a little bit late, but hopefully we can do this again. I know Inez is extremely busy, so to get her at this time was a blessing. So we'll try to do this again if we can, and definitely make sure to provide that Zoom link to you guys early. Come with your questions. Make sure you get the book. Before we close, though, Inez, if you can break down again how your book is broken down in the chapters, within the chapters into those sections, I think that's very, very insightful for us to see how we should read this book. And I mean, it goes straight through, so you don't necessarily have to pick any pages. But earlier in this Zoom, she broke down how the book is structured for you to understand things in this within this context and within what's taking place and even right now. So I'll
yes, I'll do that. But another thing, I've tried my best to make this book to where, and I said it in the book, I don't need to read it, but you can read one chapter, literally just one chapter, and you're equipped for one specific action. Could be talking to your legislator, could be going to City Hall, it could be school meetings, it could be whatever. Just one chapter by itself. So you don't have to finish the whole book to get what you're doing. It is a chapter by itself is a book. I kept them very short. I did my best not to make it too boring. Again, I know we laugh when I say this. Don't even worry about it being scholarly in language. English is not my mother tongue, so trust me, you're dealing
I
with
think it's pretty
simplest
well
English.
done for English not being your first language.
Thank you, but they're like simple terms are used. Like I don't know how to use complicated big words, all of that, because normally books like this, you end up with like, okay, I got to Google that word because though English is my mother tongue, I don't know what that means. You
Guys,
won't
let me know
face.
this in the comment section. But I have had to look things up because I don't even understand the Arabic meaning for things. Like, so that in itself, okay, is you're it's very well written, I will tell you that, for you to say that it's not scholarly. And the fact that you put in these case studies, it's not necessarily not autobiography, but it is research and it is stuff you can literally look up. And then the fact that again, we have a language barrier, number one. So the average American like myself that's just trying to learn, we're gonna have to look some stuff up. Okay. So
You
uh
don't, because at the end of the book, we have, before we go to notes, I have the glossary of terms where every Arabic word that, not even Arabic, there are like one or two even French words I have in there, or Turkish words I have, whatever non-English words,
yeah.
it has been explained to proper explanation of what that means, what the usage of it is. A good friend of mine actually said just your 3 pages of glossary of term by itself is good to have. So I can argue when a Muslim tells me, hijra means this, I can open your book and say, no, it means this. I know the meaning now.
And then some of the words I noticed that you even like you'll state the word and then you'll have in parentheses a little what it means, even in the context of reading it. Like so you don't have to necessarily always go to the glossary. That's also very
Yes.
helpful too.
Yes, those that are repeated are in the glossary of terms, but those that were like one or twice that has been used, I made sure to just put a parenthesis there, knowing it's not going to come back up again. And sometimes it just breaks the
Helpful.
sentence. You're like, wait, what? So again,
Yeah, that's good.
uh,
That's good.
I was kind of happy. One thing I was very sure of is that nobody's going to put a review of saying, don't read this. It makes you feel stupid because the words are too big to understand. I was sure I'm not going to get that negative interview review, because sometimes I have read books. I'm like, what are you trying to do to make me feel so stupid? What are these words like? Why
Calm
did
us
you have
all.
to use such a big mouthful word for it when there is a simpler term? So you won't face that with me at all. That's a great thing. But yes, so the book by itself is broken into two major sections, which is, I'm going to literally read it. We have the
Yeah,
classical
open up your
jihads.
books, guys. Sorry. If you open up your books and just go along with her, that's what I have. I have both the Kindle here on my phone, and then I also have the hard copy too.
Yeah, and I should announce because this is recent. So if you have Kindle Unlimited, you can actually read the book for free. There was a delay, but I finally registered the ebook. So if you have Kindle Unlimited, you can read the book for free. You can still buy it if you want to have it, but you can, with your unlimited, you can just read it once, I believe, for free,
And
which
then there's a signed copy option too. Still.
yes, the signed copies are available on my website, liveuptofreedom.com. When you go to the website, you can choose to buy a signed copy. Unfortunately, I have to charge an extra $9 for shipping, and I can only ship inside United States. I mean, it is so outrageously expensive to try to ship even to Canada that I decided it's better to, at least for now, I just ship inside US, and there's a $9 fee for your shipping. Yes, liveuptofreedom.com.
Now your sections in the book.
Yes. So we have the classical jihad, the two main sections. The classical jihad, those are the ones that heavily was practiced by Muhammad. And it is in every single source: Quran, Hadith, Sirah, Tafsir, Reliance of the Traveler. So I chose to call them the classical jihad. And the chapters within classical jihad, we start with combat jihad, financial jihad, migration jihad. This one is one of my favorite: deception jihad, political jihad, and we finish it with missionary jihad. Those are the chapters, the 6 chapters of the classical jihad. Then we get to the modern jihads. Now, Just because I labeled it modern doesn't mean it is not rooted in Islam. It doesn't mean it wasn't practiced by Muhammad. It is, however, it has reshaped and reformed itself to modern life. Like I said, migration or hijrah, it still looks exactly as it did when Muhammad used it. Combat jihad looks, but the next section of the modern jihads, they're rooted in the teaching Muhammad did them, but it has advanced itself to today's lifestyle, which includes the civilization jihad. We have the propaganda jihad, lawful jihad, and last but not least, betrayal jihad. Betrayal jihad is also my favorite chapter, I guess, just based on the reaction I'm getting from those who read it. They're like, wait, huh? Again, every single one sourced in the Quran, Hadith, Sirah, Tafsir, and practiced by Muhammad. But some of them, for example, when you look at propaganda jihad, based on technology, the advanced technology, now they have more tools to use propaganda jihad. They have the mainstream media, they have the social media, everybody with a microphone can have a YouTube channel or a TikTok channel and use propaganda. So the reason I broke them down is not because one is made up out of my bad, habits, one is rooted, all of them are sourced. And then again, when you open the book on the classical jihad, we start with the definition of the jihad and how it's practiced or how it's used. Then we go to the text part or doctrine foundation of it. Now, whatever we use there, I try to not give you too many samples, like 10 verses of Quran, 20 hadith, but I give you enough sources. After that, on the classical jihad, we go to time of Muhammad or how Muhammad practiced that jihad. And the modern ones, we kind of skip through that, or they're much shorter, basically. And then we go to historical expansion of that jihad. Then we come to modern day practice of that jihad. When we establish all of that, we go to practical countermeasures, bullet points, quick, do this, or don't do this, where you can have the confidence after learning the information, after having the knowledge. Now, here's how you use the knowledge that was given to you. And then we conclude each one with the core lesson that sometimes if I read a book, sometimes I want to have a quick 1-2 paragraph of, okay, what was this good for me? So I kind of did that too, including showing you or connecting the dots of how this specific chapter, this jihad, is enabling such other jihads. Because the bottom line is none of these are individual standalone acts. They are chain, they are domino effects. They're all part of one system. So I connect those for you. I show you how, for example, financial jihad is what enables the missionary jihad and the lawful jihad and a political jihad and a combat jihad. Because if they don't commit the financial jihad, if they don't have the money, their campaigns and candidates can't win, they can't run. If they don't have the money in the donations, they can't keep building mosques around America, calling it missionary buildings, on and on and on. So those are all connected inside the core lessons. And that's how each chapter follows.
Cool. So I wanted, okay. I don't know if would you be willing to take 2 more questions? I can make them short.
Absolutely. Let's do 2 more.
So this is from right here within our chat. So Jay said, a practicing Muslim is a jihadi Muslim. True or false?
Say that one more time.
A practicing Muslim is a jihadi Muslim?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, again, to be picky, it's not a jihadi, it's jihadist. A practicing Muslim is a jihadist, or as they would call it in their own, language, is a mujahid, someone who commits jihad.
Okay.
Wait, before somebody just cut this clip out of context. Jihadist by definition of 10 different faces of jihad. Now, jihadist by Allahu Akbar, blow up. So I just had to put that because you know how
That's
it
good.
is.
That's good.
I'm not calling, they're not all blowing themselves up, but a practicing Muslim is practicing at least two of these 10 faces of jihad, if not all.
Okay. 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 I'm going to add his commentary after that. He said it would appear that most Muslims are cultural Muslims, like most Christians are cultural Christians. If you don't do plus say equals follow what Yeshua, Jesus said and did, then you're not Christian. Likewise, if you don't do or say follow what Muhammad said and did, then you're not a practicing Muslim. Imams have said there is no radical Islam, only Islam. Would seem most Muslims go along to get along with their jihadist neighbors, so they avoid tax, abuse, and death, look the other way and consenting, but not true believers.
Yes, pretty much exactly. Except I would add, because when we do a side-by-side comparison, details matter. Except that what Jesus did and said was of love, compassion. What Muhammad did and said was rape, murder, torture. So, yes, both is the same, except one is of culture of death, one is culture of love. One of my favorite saying that I've been meaning to do a t-shirt for it, I just haven't had the chances, the reality, facts, and proof historically through all documentation, including Quran and Bible, is Muhammad killed, Jesus heals. That's the difference.
And then the last one, this one is getting more to what's happening right now. Is this double-sided ceasefire nothing more than Hudna?
Hudna,
Hudna.
yes. Well, it is a hudna from their end.
And what is a
However,
Hudna?
hudna is I talk about hudna in my book in chapter of deception jihad. Hudna is a form of deception. It's specifically applied to combat jihad. So, Islamic nation or Islamic or military shall never bow to non-believers, except if they are losing the battle. They are allowed to make a peace treaty with the enemy for no longer than 10 years until they can regroup and be able to resume a war and win. Now, they can repeat that treaty over and over, and that terminology of that peace treaty under the circumstances of a Muslim nation or a Muslim military to survive to finish the job is called hudna. And yes, Muhammad actually did it. He signed that treaty and he did do it. He practiced it. So, yes, part of it is hudna, but also the double-sided ceasefire from Iran end of things. It's hudna plus propaganda jihad. Because the narrative they're using today, and unfortunately, the falling apart narrative from our side of the aisle is pushing the propaganda that will help them dramatically. So it's the mix of, and again, I know I keep repeating it. One of the things that I try to establish in the book is to learn not to see one jihad out of everything. Most of the time, you're seeing 2-3 different jihad happening at the same time in the front. But two goes unnoticed because one is the more obvious. Hudna is the obvious one. But the propaganda jihad is working perfectly parallel right now with Hudna as to changing the narrative of where things are, how capable they are, how scary they are, and how much support they have and how much victimhood they can play. Listen, Hamas has done the same thing. Hamas played the deception jihad and Hudna over and over using Gaza children for the propaganda part of this, and then using the ceasefires for the survival of Hamas itself.
Good. Guys, I know I got a lot out of this tonight. This was really good. I know we could probably do this for hours because there's so much to cover. But I want to thank you guys so much for taking your time to hop in, and I hope you got like a lot of good information out of this and all of your questions answered. Continue to read that book. You're welcome, Aurora. Continue to read the book if you haven't. Go ahead and get started. I hope this inspires you to get started if you haven't, or to continue to finish reading if you've already started. And then we'll try to have this again with the book. I don't know if I'll have Inez on, but we'll see if she's available because she does a lot. But yeah, I do want to close us out with a verse from the Bible. And like I mentioned at the beginning of the Zoom meeting, guys, the reason why I'm pushing this book, I love Inez. I think she's amazing, and she's done her research, her work, and has an extensive grassroots, connection to this. And so she also, with this book, it doesn't make you feel like fear mongering. It just makes you feel it makes you feel informed enough to speak on it, to identify it, to fight for your nation, not to attack an individual person, or even just attack groups of people. And she mentions that in the book too. She's not singling out a single Muslim, etc., which is great. And she tells you in the beginning too, in the intro, that this is going to prepare you to go before your school board meeting, your city council meeting, and be informed and bring that to the table. So it's great. But here is John 16:33. It says, I have told you all this. This is what Jesus said to his disciples. I've told you all this so that you may have peace in me. Here on earth, you will have many trials and sorrows, but take heart because I have overcome the world. So we have that. John 16:33, yes. And that's the NLT version. But yeah, so stay informed, guys. And if you have any questions for Inez, you know where you can reach her. I am Iesha Speaks Truth on all my platforms, and I try to go live every single week via podcast as well. And then we're going to stay in this book until we finish it. So hopefully we'll try to see if we can get Inez again to hop in with us next month, maybe. But yeah, to stay informed. And I want you guys to have a community where you can do that and actually have your questions answered as well by somebody that is doing the job, Okay, so thank you guys so much again for hopping in tonight, and hopefully we'll see you guys next month.
I should can I jump in for like
Yeah.
30 seconds before you close? First of all, thank you for that verse. I think I needed to hear that. Thank you for that. And yes, we can definitely, I'll say this now, we can definitely figure out a date next month to come back. And I just realized from a Scotsman, I'm glad I was able to answer questions, but I realized some of you might have missed it. On my bookshelf is the book cover, so you won't miss it. But Architecture of Jihad. Architecture of Jihad is the name of the book.
Thank you, Aurora.
That you can get it on Amazon, Kindle, or paperback. And I also should mention that I am working on the audiobook.
Oh, great.
But I am. But
Great.
you had like between like today, my day has started at 7:30 in the morning, and it is I don't know what time. It's about 8:48 now, and it's been I have survived on some juice and a couple of coffee. I haven't even had time to eat yet. However,
Oh,
between the
God.
time and trying to get the accent under control for my listeners to understand what I'm reading to them, it's a slow process, but I am doing my best. Bear with me, audiobook will be out as soon as possible. And
I'll
we'll
have to
figure
get that
out.
too.
I'll let you know as soon as it's ready. But yes, I was planning to ask someone to do it, and then I realized if they don't have the accent, they'll butcher the Arabic words. If I do it without butchering the Arabic word, the bottom line was it was better for me to do it myself, but it's going to take me a good minute. And I mean the American style minute, but we're working on it.
I think it's gonna be great. I can't wait to get it. Aurora says, Aisha and Inez, right? Please be on Spotify podcasts. Oh, I never thought about doing that. Um, I am on all of my socials. Personally, I know you got Substack. Inez has been doing this way longer than me. Guys, I just started last year, okay? Because I felt the Lord told me to use my platforms to speak out. So I am learning alongside you guys. Probably a lot of you guys in here know more than I do, but I am on Facebook, I'm on X, I'm on TikTok, I'm on YouTube. And I think Spotify might be something I got to check out. So thank you, Aurora. Aurora, you guys have been awesome in the comment section. So hopefully next time we do this, Inez, Aurora and Jay can hop in again. I believe it was those two that were helping me out.
Yes, go
And go
away,
away, and go
Aurora.
away. Go away, went away.
And again, I feel so bad because I got the link to my Substacker so late. So next time I'll make sure to get the link to everybody on Substack a little earlier. And
Yeah,
yes, I have thought about being Spotify, but though I've been doing this a lot longer than you. I guess I got a good probably 20 years on you. So
oh, wow.
not to make myself very old, but I mean, I think the age gap, I think I'm about, I don't know how much older than you I am, but I'm pretty up there age-wise, and I've been doing this for, well, publicly for 11 years. However, to this day, it has always been me. I don't have an assistant. I don't have an editor. I don't have a writer. It's just
Wow.
one me. So sometimes it's just so overwhelming, like I have to skip something.
Oh
And
God, it's a lot of work.
it is. It again, like as I'm telling you, it's almost 9, and when we wrap up, I'm literally staring at that angle. I have 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 books that have been signed, but I still have to be packaged, labeled, and get ready front door. Probably drop them off tomorrow morning, and then after that, I still have to work. But my point is, I just came to realize, okay, if it's video, it's happening at the same time everywhere, and I'm just gonna end it at that. So many people are like, you gotta get on a Spotify. I'm like, I don't have time to extract audio and post. Like, even that is too much right now. And by
Listen,
the
I
way,
have a team. Like this is a work. I have 3 kids, guys. So, and I'm married. I'm also in ministry. I'm with Turning Point USA Rise. I'll be traveling. This is being a content creator, it's awesome, right? But then when you start to get momentum and you all of these avenues as well start to open up where you can reach more people and you have a vision, like you're not just doing this for clicks, it's different. And then there's all these different ways you can reach people that you probably should take to get your message out and to do all of that, you know by yourself is work. I mean, like even editing YouTube videos, that thing took me 8 hours. I was like, nope, I'm hiring somebody. And I'm good at editing, okay? I'm very decent. But I was like, nope, nope, not for YouTube. I'm gonna just hire it out because it's a lot of work. But if you can do it all yourself, I think it's good, but at some point it's better to try and hire help if you can.
I can't afford it. That's a problem. And mind you, everything I do, none of it is I actually work full time.
Oh my God.
I work full time. And then I do my daily show. I do my daily Substack. I, work on the book,
Guys, we
do the
gotta pray
travel
for
business.
her. We gotta pray the right help comes. Somebody that sees her vision, that doesn't want to harm her or harm the work that she's doing. Somebody that wants to come alongside and really partner. We gotta pray for that because it's a lot. Annie, she said, please read your book, audiobook, or have your book read by someone for people who cannot read, cannot see well, etc. Thank you.
Yes, working on it. I will get it done. Just bear with me a little longer. I'll promise it's going to be ready.
Well,
I'm
I'm gonna.
I'm even thinking some parts I might do the reading where it has too many words that might be hard. And then I have a very good friend of mine who has offered to share the reading with me. So he might do parts of the chapter. I might do parts of them to just expedite the process. We'll see.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. I'm thinking like, well, I think I'll pray for you to find, figure it out and have the best solution for you. Because I'm
Thank you.
like, I speak Spanish as a second language that is fluently, so I could read a book, but like Arabic, no. And then other languages like French too, I have no idea. So even though it might be close to Spanish, if I never learn that, I might butcher it. So yeah, that's. Well, guys, so what I'm gonna do is I thank y'all so much for staying on and hanging out with us. I'm gonna just close us out in prayer and then and cover you, Annie, and then when we have this again, I'll let you know, and then you can see if you can have it. Well, me and you will communicate for a time for you to come back on, okay? And then we'll work that out.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
God, we just thank you for this time. I bless all the people that are here on this call, and I bless this country. I bless Inez, and I thank you, God, that at this moment that you have raised her up, God, and put a book inside of her to release, God. And I ask that this book go very, very far, Lord. I thank you, God, for the work that you place in her hands. I ask you for streamlining that strategy, Lord, that it would be efficient, that it would be work that is done with accuracy and efficiency, God. And I also ask the God that you would help her, Lord, to find the right people to come alongside her, and that she would have that finances that she needs in order to be able to bless them for the work that they're doing for her, Lord. I bless these people. I ask that you would continue to prepare us for this nation to do your work, God, to be people that are sound. Like your word says, to be shrewd as snake, but as gentle as doves. God, that we would understand that, yeah, you were compassion, but you were truthful. You were a man full of courage, of boldness, of faith, and of truth. And you would speak that regardless of the consequences because you understood what that meant. You had long-term vision in what you wanted to accomplish. And I pray that we catch wind of that vision. I thank you, God, for all that you're doing within this nation. I bless America. Please give Trump the wisdom and put the right people in place for him. God, that there won't be people that leak or people that do a horrible job, or that might not be the best for the job. I pray that you would help him to see, give him eyes to see and ears to hear, and have the right people around him as well. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right, guys, thank y'all so much for being with us. And again, blessing to you too, Paul. Thank you so much. I appreciate all of you guys for hopping in with us. And we will see you guys next month. Hopefully, see you then.
Stay safe.
Thank you, guys. Bye for now.
Tonight on the Worldview Report, President Trump hails the announced ceasefire with Iran as a major diplomatic breakthrough, while critics warn it is another illusionary peace that will allow the regime to regroup and rearm. Armed militants massacre at least 60 Christians in coordinated attacks on farming villages in central Nigeria. We'll have a report. Hamas makes it clear it has no intention of surrendering or disarming, demanding full Israeli withdrawal from Gaza. A private Islamic school in Dallas, it's being funded by individuals with documented ties to Hamas. The federal government ends long-standing financial incentives that rewarded doctors and states for achieving high childhood vaccination rates. And a Haitian illegal immigrant is charged with brutally murdering a Florida mother by beating her to death with a hammer outside a gas station. Rhode Island lawmakers, they advanced legislation that would significantly expand the state's authority to confiscate firearms from law-abiding citizens. All this and more as the Worldview Report begins right now.
This is Worldview Report with host Brandon House. Whether it is news from the nation's capital or your state capital, from the classroom to the boardroom, from national security to national and local news that impacts you and your family, Worldview Report is your trusted source for vital and uncensored news. And now, here is Brandon House.
Good evening and welcome to the Worldview Report. I'm Brandon House. We begin tonight with an article from Front Page Magazine. It reports that President Trump is hailing the announced ceasefire with Iran as a major diplomatic breakthrough and a big day for world peace, while the author argues it is another illusionary peace that will only allow the Iranian regime to regroup. The piece notes that immediately after the ceasefire was declared, Iran, they fired missiles and drones at Israel, as well as at targets in the United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, Qatar, and Bahrain. At least 11 people were injured in Israel alone. The author points out that the Islamic Republic is presenting the argument as an American surrender and acceptance of its nuclear program, with its Farsi language version of the deal, including provisions for continued uranium enrichment. That, of course, are absent from the English version. Israeli officials say they support the ceasefire only if it is genuine. But the piece also warns that the regime is simply buying time. Citing Islamic law on truces, the author explains that the mullahs, well, they are following the classic jihadist pattern of agreeing to a pause when they're losing in order to, of course, rebuild their strength and resume the fight for another day. The article concludes that once again, instead of pressing forward to final victory, the West has chosen to kick the can down the road, allowing the jihad threat to survive and even grow stronger. An article from Sweden Herald reports that armed militants killed at least 60 people in a series of coordinated attacks on Christian farming villages in central Nigeria. The assaults, they occurred over several days in Plateau State, where Fulani militants and other Islamic groups have carried out repeated massacres against Christians. Victims included men, women, and children who were shot in their homes or while trying to flee. Entire families were wiped out, and in some cases, the attackers, they were going house to house in the villages. Local leaders and survivors, they described the attacks as part of an ongoing campaign to displace Christian farmers from the region and seize their fertile land. Nigerian security forces, they have been widely criticized for failing to prevent the violence or even apprehend the perpetrators, arriving only after the attackers had already fled. Church officials, they called the latest killings another chapter in what they described as systematic efforts to eradicate Christianity from parts of Nigeria's Middle Belt. Many survivors, they're now displaced, with entire communities living in fear, and some refusing to return to their villages. An article from the Gatestone Institute reports that Hamas has made it clear it has no intention of surrendering, disarming, or accepting any ceasefire terms that would require it to give up control of Gaza. Senior Hamas officials, they publicly rejected any agreement that would force the group to lay down its weapons or relinquish governance of that territory. The terror organization, they continue to insist on a full Israeli withdrawal from Gaza, the complete lifting of all border restrictions, and the release of all Palestinian prisoners held by Israel, all in exchange for the remaining hostages. Hamas leaders, they have signaled confidence that they can outlast both Israel and the United States through continued resistance and mounting international pressure. The article, it notes that despite suffering heavy losses during the war, Hamas views the current situation as an opportunity to regroup, rearm, and prepare for the next round of fighting. The piece, it emphasizes that Hamas remains fully committed to its long-term ideological goal of destroying the state of Israel, rather than seeking any genuine or lasting peace. Far from moderating its position, the group, well, it's using the pause in fighting to strengthen its narrative of victory and to rally support among Palestinians and its regional allies. We turn now to an article from the Geller Report, and she's reporting that a private